You're watching Durango News, celebrating Southwest Colorado every day.
Can the Powerhouse Science Center regain the public's trust? The new director says it can. Local tourism officials predict a sunny forecast for this summer's tourist season. And a local freestyle skier hits the slopes for the summertime practice in his backyard. Find out how he does it without any snow. You're watching Durango TV News.
This program is brought to you by Coldwell Banker, Heritage House Realtors, your source for real estate in the Four Corners area for over 35 years.
Opponents of the proposed village at Wolf Creek have vowed to continue their fight against the controversial development after Rio Grande Forest Supervisor Dan Dallas last month issued a final decision to approve a land exchange between the Forest Service and Texas billionaire McCombs. Dallas approved the exchange of about 200 acres of Forest Service land along U.S. Highway 160 with approximately 177 acres of privately held land adjacent to the development site. The exchange gives the village at Wolf Creek direct access to the highway and now allows the developer to proceed with plans to build a village that will eventually house more than 10,000 people in the pristine meadows along the Continental Divide next to Wolf Creek ski area. But Jimbo Buickarud, public land specialist with the San Juan Citizens Alliance in Durango, says that the Forest Service decision was based on an environmental impact statement that was illegally limited in its scope. The statement failed to address the potential environmental impacts of the development itself.
So what the Forest Service has done is they narrowed the scope, and once you narrow the scope, lots of things just go away, right? You don't have to look at this, don't have to look at that. You know, where's the power coming from? What happens to the wetlands? Oh, the lynx, their habitat is gone forever. You know, those type of things. They just really minimize that.
In an interview with Durango TV News, Rio Grande Forest Supervisor Dan Dallas said he could not consider the impacts that the development may have because it's on private land.
Our jurisdiction is what happens on the National Forest System lands. And so that's actually the approval of whatever happens next. You know, they clearly intend to build a village, what they call the village up there, but it's a large development over time, but that's the jurisdiction of Mineral County.
Opponents have accused the Forest Service of bowing to undue pressure from the developer to limit the scope of its analysis to just the land exchange. In 2014, Rocky Mountain Wild filed 2 Freedom of Information requests with the federal courts to obtain all documents and correspondence pertaining to the land exchange. The courts have ordered the Forest Service to begin providing the documents. But Buickarud says the Forest Service has been slow to comply. Opponents have accused the Forest Service of bowing to the undue pressure from the developer to limit the scope of its analysis to just the land exchange. Rocky Mountain Wild filed 2 Freedom of Information requests with the federal courts to obtain all documents and correspondence pertaining to the land exchange. The courts have ordered the Forest Service to begin providing the documents, but Buickarud says the Forest Service has been slow to comply. Opponents have also accused Deputy Regional Forester Mary Beth Gustafson with an illegal conflict of interest, saying she developed content for the environmental impact statement, then served as the reviewing officer when objections to the EIS were filed.
So it's really troubling that the process isn't working. We also know that the Deputy Regional Forester, who was the review officer for this, looked through the objections, such as ours and some of the other, there are like 20 objections, that you know, from information we're receiving now, is that officer appears to have been involved in the actual, you know, design and analysis of the document kind of early on. So it's not exactly a transparent process or an independent process when you're involved in the production of a document and then you're on the reviews.
Superintendent Dallas maintains that the decision-making process has been transparent from the very beginning. The Wolf Creek parcel was first created in a 1987 Forest Service land exchange with private property along the Sawatch River drainage. He also denies any conflict of interest.
Kind of really unfortunate now that some of the folks who objected to this are saying, well, she was involved in the day-to-day analysis process, which I was in charge of, and sorry, it's just not true. And there's no conspiracy or undue pressure or any. At no point in time, nobody inside the agency, outside the agency, whether it was a proponent or an opponent, said, you can't do this, or you, thou shalt not. I never had anything like that.
The only recourse that opponents have at this point is to file a lawsuit against the Forest Service in federal court. Buickaroo says opponents of the village at Wolf Creek are waiting to see what turns up in the Freedom of Information requests they've filed. But the bottom line, they just want the Forest Service to assess the environmental impacts of building a town the size of Aspen on the Continental Divide before making any decisions on a land exchange.
You know, we're all ready, I would say. I think the public is very ready on either side of the pass for a good analysis here that really considers really what the land exchange is all about. It's just not skipping this on a piece of property for that, but it's still the full intention of the joint venture to build, you know, thousands of units there.
We'll continue to follow this issue. In the meantime, you can see all the federal documents related to the village at Wolf Creek by logging on to fs.usda.gov/Rio Grande. Links to opponents' websites may be found at friendsofwolfcreek.org.
This program is brought to you by Coldwell Banker, Heritage House Realtors, your source for real estate in the Four Corners area for over 35 years.